Hello and welcome back to the Let's Glow Show. It's Amanda Sweet, the Creative Fairy Godmother, and we're back with another amazing interview with a super dope creative and entrepreneur. This human right here is so amazing. I probably wouldn't be doing the show without her. This is Angela Buccellato, the founder of the Resume Rescue. Welcome.
Thanks for having me. Thanks for giving me all the flowers. You're the best.
No, truly, like you're an amazing force in the world, but in my life, like
because you're good people. Good people. Like, you are good people, and that's where I'm very much, and I'm sure we'll get into it, but I very much operate on like what I wish someone would have told me of like, listen, sweetie, you got this. Like, it's not that serious. You do scary stuff all the time. So that's where I try to operate and be every day, is like be everyone else's cheerleader. Like you are. You're a great cheerleader for everyone too.
Thank you. But you push me in a way that just feels like I have a lot of pushers, which I very much appreciate. But you're coming on my show. That's business. And you're going to talk about your business. And your recording is in next week. I'm like, okay. I didn't talk about my business. What is my business? You're like, you got this. Come on.
And look at you. What is that? What we did it almost 2 years. Oh, I think a year and a half ago is the first time I bullied you, or pushed you, as we like to say. So look at how much you've done.
Coach me in the
coached you. There we go.
That is a good word for it. You're like, this is what you can do, and you're doing it all day long. I see you do it. Every single person you talk to, you're like, what do you do? What are you into? How can I help you? And I'm just like,
because connections are cool. It's so cool making connections, and then it's just like you get closer to like your goals, or you just kind of be like, no way, you know this person. Like a great example of this, my partner Dan, a girl I grew up with, like I've known her I think since like third grade. She hired me to do her resume, and she's like, did we talk about this? Like, I know Dan, I went to college with Dan, and I was like, I actually connected it. And it's just like so weird. And I know you and I have had a few like weird situations, and just like, how do you know this person, or events you've had that I'm like, why are you here? I know you, but the world is so small.
My favorite thing. I love it. Well, tell everybody a little bit about who you are, other than the fact that you're an amazing coach and pusher and cheerleader and connector.
So I own the Resume Rescue. So what we do is we do full career services, anywhere from entry-level C-suite executive to write your resume, to help you figure out what you want to do when you grow up, have your cake and eat it too when it comes to your career. And where I started this was because I worked, like my first job out of college, I remember I was like, what am I going to do? Is this what being an adult's like? Because it's trash and I don't want it. And not knowing where I could go with my degree, ended up in a recruiting job. Come to find out, my male counterparts were making $18,000 more than me, even though I was number one in the company. And I'm thankful, privileged. I was able to live at home at the time, save a lot of money.
Right.
But I was like, we're in the 2010s here. Like, aren't we over gender discrimination in the workplace? But apparently not. So moved into another technical recruiting job. And I knew week 3, I made a mistake. Like it was a big pay increase, to get me to $45,000 and 10% commission. Great. Right. And I remember crying in my car, being like, what am I going to do next? End up staying there 2.5, almost 3 years, until I got fired. So, and then I was like, how did I get fired? I've skipped holidays. I've been on my phone on nights and weekends. Like, I was your overworker, like me, because getting fired has the connotation of like, you don't show up, you're not doing your job, whatever that may be. And I was like, me get fired? Like, no way. So when I was absolutely devastated. I was gutted, but I was like, let's push this cute little side business I had started 2 years before, and just like sink or swim, sweetheart. So that was, oh gosh, almost 5 years ago now. It'll be in September. Haven't looked back, have 3 awesome employees currently. So yeah, it's been fun. And we've helped, I think last we looked was about 4,500 job seekers or so. So it's been fun globally.
Holy crap. That's huge. That is huge. I'm so proud of you.
Thank you. And then what'd you say?
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say, and I always forget to mention, I also do have a podcast called That's Business that I always forget to talk about. So interview badass people like yourself to just tell your story. And I try to pull people that, yes, have very interesting stories, but it's not like, I woke up and I started this business and it's so successful. Like, I want to hear, hey, I work multiple jobs, or you were extremely vulnerable on the first podcast.
Mhm.
And my podcast producer, John Gay, had even messaged me and he's like, okay, Amanda's episode, I have to tell you, was like groundbreaking, life changing. And he had never done that with any episode before. So
John.
it's, yes, we love John, but it's get that side of it's really cool too, because like I met someone at a concert the other day that's like a lead singer of a band. I mean, we were at the Crowfoot in Pontiac, very small venue for those of you that don't know. It's like a house, but went up to the lead singer of the band and I was like, you. And he's like, what did I do? Like, I love you. You are incredible. Like, you're hilarious. Like, love self-deprecating humor. So
Mhm.
talented, better than the headliners. And I was like, you need to be on my podcast. He's like, oh, hell yeah, let's do it. And he's going to be on next week. So
Yes.
it's fun. And it's just like, just talk to people. I'm thankful I got fired and thankful for all the not so hot stories I have, but it's led me to, you and I would have never met. I mean,
Right.
it's just like so many of my closest friends, you included, like I would not have had that not happened to me. So
I
thankful for
feel
that.
like I feel like I hear this story a lot, like from a lot of entrepreneurs. I got let go from my job, I got fired, I got laid off, something like that. Then it sprung me into the situation. And I also feel like now more than ever, I know a lot of people in my life who have been fired or let go. And I'm just kind of wondering, like, what advice do you have for people? Because you're like a get shit done kind of person. You're like I saw that energy where you're like, you're gonna be on my podcast. Like, not everybody's got that energy. And so, what advice do you have for people who have been fired or let go to get back up on the horse and get shit going? Because that it can be hard and mentally draining, emotionally draining, damaging, like traumatic. Like
Mhm. And
how?
it was extremely, I mean, traumatic for me because I had just caught, well, I should include, I just got home from 2-week vacation in Italy. Like, I was on the let's live, laugh, love. I take life too seriously. Like, we work too hard in the US. Like, I need to take it slower and get back to the Italian roots because I have family in Italy. And so I was living on that high and I come home and I'm like, what is happening here? So my advice is if you're already miserable, I mean, just leave. Like, don't just leave, but you can make things happen. I was living paycheck to paycheck. I had just got a house. Like, I was very, like, wouldn't eat dinner some nights just to save some money or do the whole ramen thing, which I still love
Right.
ramen to this day, I think, because of those days. But it's, I calculated I needed to make $100 a day to survive. And granted, wasn't married, don't have kids, like, not like things I remember. I was like single at the time. So, or I was in a relationship, but you know what I'm saying is like
Yeah.
I had just my mouth to feed. So, what I did was I sat down and I calculated how much a day do I need to survive. And it came down to like $100 a day to pay all my bills, make everything happen and feel successful with it and not be, and still like, have groceries and have things I needed. But I cut out my subscriptions. Like, I did not have Netflix. I like cut all that stuff.
Right.
Um, and just like did what I had to do. So I was the yes friend. It was like, hey, can you help me move? Yes. Hey, can you watch? Can you babysit my friend's kid? Yes. Like, just to get that $100 a day so I would survive. And it gave me time to prioritize what I wanted. I mean, I come home and I know this is not the healthiest outlet, but I came home and I like poured my glass of wine at 9 a.m. and I was sobbing, like hyperventilating, told my mom, told my partner at the time. And I sat at my desk and I'm like, what the heck am I going to do? Like, what am I going to do? So
Right.
part of the story as well is I don't recommend doing this and don't take this as advice, but I did tell my boss exactly how I felt about him because he was so incredibly toxic. Like, I would cry on the way home from work, the way to work. Partner at the time was like, I love you. I can't listen to this about this job anymore. Like,
Right.
you are so much better than them. And you know this and you coach people. Like, get the heck out.
Yeah.
So, and that was eye-opening. Because I made the conscious decision, like, I'm not working for this company again. I'm going out with a bang. And I did.
Right. Right.
Still talk to my other boss, actually. We're probably going to get drinks soon. So it's kind of funny. But it's just like, your health is so important. I mean, I've had friend lose her hair at 27 years old at the time because she was so stressed out. And it's just like, you can't work when you're dead. And
Literally that. Literally
literally.
that. And I had my last role before my current role, very similar experience, very toxic work environment. My hair was literally falling out in chunks during
Yeah.
the pandemic, which is part of the reason I chopped it all off, because I was just like, there's nothing left. There's nothing left. And it was like right after I quit that I chopped it all out. When you cut your hair, you change your life, you know?
Yes.
So it was like, it was like I was on 24/7 on call for a
Right.
company that was not an emergency company. And it was like, I didn't have anything left. There was nothing in me, but it was so draining. I'm like, I was so empty that I couldn't even like search for the next opportunity until I saw one on LinkedIn just randomly. And I was like, DM this person because I know them personally. And I think it would be a good fit. Not that I was looking, but it was just like, I was dying inside, literally.
Right.
And this is very personal, but even like my fertility journey was getting messed up with it. Like my periods were off track. I wasn't having periods. Like there was like 3-4 months that I would go by without a period. And I thought it was normal because I have PCOS, but come to find out, once I left that job, my period became regular. I was like,
Well, your body tells you.
Yeah, literally. It's crazy.
I also like had, I don't have PCOS, but I have other problems too, but I skip periods and I was like, oh, it's fine because I'm super, like I was going to Orange Theory 3-4 times a week. I'm like, oh, it's because I'm this, but I like really in shape and working out all the time. It's like, no, sweetheart, it's because you're stressed out. So
it's the environment that you're working in. And I really love that you said, you were like, if you're already miserable, you might as well just leave. Like, don't wait to get fired. Okay, so trauma aside, you're telling people that they need to just get up and try again. But like, what if you're feeling that, like the weight of that, like you are fired,
Yes. So there was a mourning period because it felt like ending a relationship. I mean, I was there 3 years. I got my best friend at the time hired. I mean, I still work with people actually from that very first recruiting job. Like candidates I worked with have hired me to help them and still help them. So what I've come to learn is sitting down and getting your priorities straight, or talk to friends if you know any entrepreneurs or you know anyone that's done this before or gone through the hard stuff. I was so lucky that I had multiple friends that were entrepreneurs at the time, and now I even have a whole plethora of friends that are entrepreneurs, but they helped me kind of reevaluate because I came home and I announced it on Facebook, Instagram, like all the social medias that like, hey, I finally had the push I needed to start the Resume Rescue. So I had a lot of people reaching out, and I had copied and pasted the text of telling the story and like sent it to all my friends just to update them on what was going on. But what I've learned, and this weird connotation lately of people like, oh, you're so confident. And I'm like, I don't feel like I am, but like, thank you for it. And it's not even, I think, confidence. It's just like that inquisitive nature of saying like, what do you do? Like, I love you and I love your earrings. I love your vibe. I want to learn more about you. Like just doing that, because we're also scared of, I don't want to come off as weird. I don't want to do this. And I think you actually had said this on my podcast. It's not harder to make friends as an adult. What it is you're just not surrounded by people your age unless you place yourselves in those situations, like at Bamboo, like at networking events that call to you, whether they're, for me, it's women-led or diverse groups. I don't want to be, I want to walk into the room with my skull and crossbones shirt that I love and my dark makeup I love to wear and like feel supported. Like I don't want to be looked at like I have 3 eyes. So it's finding those, and it's just like having the conversation, because we all like almost retract back to being like, oh, I don't want to come off as weird. I don't know. What if? It's like, who cares? Whatever. And it doesn't always work. Like there have been plenty of people.
The weird people will flock to you. Like your people will be attracted by your energy. So if you show up authentically the way you do all the time, you're like, hi, I love you. Like, I love this outfit. I love your shoes. Like, what is your name? Tell me what you do. Those people will be attracted to that energy. And I do realize these are 2 extroverts talking to each other.
Right. Yes.
So to our non-extroverts, like, how do you suggest they show up in a space where they can get more people like you to be like, I like you, talk to me, what is your name? Because I feel like there's definitely a dynamic and there's a spectrum of
There is, yes.
extrovertedness, you know, but it seems like you attract a lot of different like levels of people.
Yes. So one of my very closest friends, Katie, actually met Dan this weekend, and they are both extroverted introverts. Dan more so than Katie. Like Katie's a programmer. Like she does not like to leave her house. Like she gets anxiety from the events I tell her I go to. She's like, there's no way I'd have to like take a Xanax. I'm getting anxiety right now. You telling me that you're speaking in front of 1,000 people. Absolutely not. So, but we grew up together. So it's funny dynamic, but there was this meme forever ago. It was like, every introvert needs their extroverted friend to like hold their hand and say like, come here, little sweetheart.
And vice versa. And vice versa. I feel like every extrovert needs an introvert. I think I talked about this with Taylor on the last episode. It's like the zigzaggy person and the straight person so that they can both get to the destination like in a timely manner, because everybody needs one of each. Like it's that opposites attract kind of energy. But I think something that helps for our introverts out there that are trying to figure out how to cultivate this kind of energy and or try to get somebody like Angela to notice you. I talked about this book before. It's called 92 Thing or How to Talk to Anyone, 92 it's like wear a doodad, I think she calls it. So it's like something weird. So like cherry earrings. Like this is a conversation starter for me. And I try to make it easier for people to come up and say something to me. So either you're going to be very comfortable or you're going to be like, I really like your earrings. And then the conversation starts, you know? So it's not like a weird, odd thing. It's like, I'm wearing this flashy thing on purpose so that you can ask me a question about it and we can start the conversation without anybody feeling weird. Because I know it's outlandish and I know I have 2 different earrings on, and that's the whole point. I want you to be like, why do you have 2 different earrings on? Or did you know you have 2 different earrings on? Or I like your, just to kind of cut the tension.
Break the ice. Right.
Guide the conversation and get it started. But I love the way you walk into spaces. I was going to say barrel into spaces. You kind of just like, hello, I'm here. Like, okay, you said something a moment ago. You're like, this whole thing about confidence. I want to poke at that a little bit. Cause you were like, it's people talk about my confidence. I don't know that I'm confident. And then you're like, I want you. You're mine. We're doing this thing. Let's go. So like, what do you feel about confidence in yourself or just in the word or the idea of confidence? And why do you feel like you're like, no?
Oh my gosh. So we've been exploring this in therapy lately. So shout out to Devin, my therapist. He's the realest one. And he still keeps me around because I think I scare him sometimes. Like walked in a raging, angry mood yesterday and I felt so calm after. So love him. But I think because with me, I think that's us growing up as millennials of like, oh, confidence is, a supermodel. And if you don't look like that, and I think that's just like deep rooted in me where confidence looks in a different light. Or I think about you, honestly, like when I think confidence, I think Amanda Sweet, like 1000%, it is you because you wear whatever the heck you want. You say whatever the heck you want. And you just like are doing the damn thing, which is awesome. But when I compare our friendship and something Devin had said, he's like, what would you tell? And I say the same freaking advice. So it was just like thrown in my face and it's fine. What would you tell your clients or what do you tell your friends when you have that? I'm like, oh, well, yeah, of course you're confident. Like, why wouldn't you be? Like Taylor's one of my good friends, Michelle Rafalski and all these other Tiffany, all these badass women lucky to have in my life. But it's like, yeah, of course you're all confident. Why wouldn't you be? And it doesn't have a perfect look to it. Like Michelle, I love talking and we have a very matter of fact friendship and little dark humor thrown in there where she calls me the other day and she's like, okay, I have 2 business things, 1 personal thing. Where would you like to start? I'm like, business. She's like, okay, great. I assumed you would say yes, but I wanted to call you. Like, it's so funny communicating. And I'm like, yes, you're confident. You are in that different light. You're confident in what you wear, the inspiration piece, the just like uplifting individuals. And looking at it myself, I'm like, well, yeah, Angela, you are confident to tell people like, quit your shitty job. Like, let's find you a new one. And it's like, it's it's really working on like not saying you're not confident in that way, is because I am. You can throw me in a room and I will go make friends or
It
yeah,
feels like it's like your element. Like
it is.
what I'm learning about confidence is knowing where your element is and trying to
Yes.
go into your element more often. Like I can tell you right now, when I walk into a room of people, I'm not here. Some people go here, other people go full body. They go into their body, they go into the present. And I know when I'm in a flow state because I'm not like, next thing I know, the next time I have like a conscious thought is like when I'm at home or when I'm alone. You know, it's like you start the event, you go into your present flow state, and then next thing you know, the event's over. You know, that's how I know. And I'm trying to absorb some more of that present time. I feel like as a younger person, I would understand that that was happening, but I would like kind of block out the present, if that makes any sense. But now I'm like, okay, the present is happening. We're in it. Let's enjoy it. Let's participate. Let's soak it in. But it seems like you're the same way. You walk into a room and then you're in there. But sometimes, like, I get this way also. Like, I have a lot of insecurities, even though I appear confident. I talk about confidence. And we've talked about this too. It's like starting my business is a big, like, risky
Yes.
thing, a thing that causes me insecurity. Like, is this the right decision? Am I going in the right way? But it's because I'm in here. I'm living in here. I'm thinking about it too much. It's causing like all of these questions have to have answers. So if I'm asking the questions like, will I fail? We have to like contemplate the answers. And some of the answers could be yes, you know, and that causes shaky shit, you know? But on the other hand, we're here, we're having this conversation, we're talking, we're in a flow state, and this is where I feel comfortable. And I'm like, I present confident in this way because this is where I get out of my brain and start doing the damn thing. Same thing
Right.
with you.
And
So
I think it's too back to the comment on introverts, like what advice do you have? I mean, it's what do you feel most confident in? Friend Katie is an e-gamer, like on a team, hardcore gamer, like badass. Like when Dan met her was like, oh, she's like good if she's on
yeah.
So that's her comfort level. And she still does make friends, but it's with the commonality of with this video game. And I forget what she plays, but it's where I can walk into a room and, you know, make friends or build connections or feel comfortable in that capacity. She still, like I said, makes friends, feels in her element. It's great, but she likes to partner it with a video game. So if that's the same thing for you, or there's something you're really into, like capitalize on it. I mean, Dan plays vintage baseball, which is super random, but he has made so many great connections and job opportunities and things like that. It's just like, what are you already doing in life, and to make it easy to make those connections there.
And I love that you said that because I feel like a lot of these insecurities about the things that we love, like video games, for example, or if you're like, so if you're a big gamer or you're like a super sports nerd, or you're super into whatever kind of alternative community there is, because we all have our thing.
Yes.
And I think the thing that I hear most commonly about those passion things is their parents in their background. That's not going to make you any money. You're being lazy. This is not, you know, all of that stupid shit that our parents used to say because they don't understand the value of that thing in our life. But
Right.
when I see adults that are like, I'm on an e-game, I'm in an e-game community, I'm doing vintage baseball, I'm doing XYZ. Those people, their lives are so much more fulfilled because they're actually blocking out that old mentality that somebody else thrusted upon them. Like, that's never going to make you any money. That's not the reason why I'm playing vintage baseball. I'm playing vintage baseball because I fucking love it. And I'm finding my friends here. You know, this is where I'm finding my people. And I see Labrie, my husband, I see this happen with him a lot when he's like making his art or painting or making furniture or making music. The first thing he always says, which we're working on, is, well, this is not going to make me quit my job. This is not going to make me any money. I'm like, why is that the reason? Why is that's not the reason why you're making this art? You're not making the art to, you know, I was like, you're making the art because it brings you joy. It makes you happy. It keeps you calm. But your parents, and I'm going to point a finger at his parents because I'm like, that's the only voice that it could be. It's nobody else. It's somebody else. It's someone else's voice. My sister says it all the time. She's like, who's saying that? When I say stuff, she's like, who's saying that? I'm like, I don't know. It's me. She's like, that's not you. Whenever I'm like talking about my insecurities or where I'm feeling fear, she's like, who said that? Who said that to you?
No, it's who said that to you, and okay, what if this fails? What if this is successful? And this whole journey is not like it's not perfect. I mean, I forget who I was talking to the other day. Like, if I'm being clear, like I pay my employees very well. I put them first. And a lot of business owners will disagree with how I do things, but it's, I'm more of a like, let's break it and we'll figure it out and I'll fix it. Or, hey, I'd rather get my employees paid very well because, you kind of have to practice what you preach when you're in career services. So
Right.
I then will eat later. So like you eat first, I'll eat later. And I kind of think of it as like, if you're a struggling, like let's just say, like a family that's struggling, for example, maybe it's single mom situation, whatever that may be, and you only have enough food for the kids. Like give the kids the food first, like you'll figure it out later, or eat the scraps. So I kind of operate that way with mutual respect for all of us. And we are very close. And I don't like to say family. I like to say like we are really genuinely friends.
Yeah.
And I've really cultivated this awesome environment. I like to say I'm a pretty good boss. I like to think
I know
so.
you are. I see it. I see how happy they are.
Thank you.
That's not something you can fake.
No.
How are you? But like we're like they seem like they're actually having a good time. So
Yes.
shout out to you.
Thank you. But it's funny because I was just having this conversation the other day. I'm like, let me be clear. Like this is the least amount of money I've made in my life, but we hit our goals this year. Like I will make the most amount of money in my life, and that's fine. Like this will be our fifth year in business in September. I did it this way, where a lot of entrepreneurs are like, well, I want to be a solopreneur. I'm making all this money. And I'm like, no, I want to grow an empire. So I'm going to get the people in place that want to stay and the right people. And then I will eat. Like I will eat eventually. It's going to be fine. And we still do really well, but I put that extra money towards them. So, and now this year when I've said like, hey, I literally have to take an income. Like I have to take an income. I need to be selfish this year. And they're like, okay, great. Makes sense. Like
selfish. You need to be paid and you need to take
right.
it. It's not selfish.
Exactly. And I didn't present it as selfish, and I shouldn't have said selfish. That wasn't the right word, but more of a like, I have to do this because I like looking for a house and have a lot more bills to pay. So they're like, yeah, great. Sounds lovely. So and I would just like love to take everyone into my little hands and say like, it is better on the other side because being a boss now, I now realize like how much these toxic employers chose to be pieces of shit or chose to treat me like crap. I can't fathom looking one of my employees in the eyes and saying like, okay, great. I don't care. And this really did happen to me. Okay. Yeah. Your cousin died at 30 suddenly, but like, what days are you taking off? And are you coming in Friday? Like, I remember running to the bathroom crying. Like that was such a traumatic week and it's still crazy. This was 6 years ago. And I cannot think of doing that. And it's quite the opposite where I push my employees, like take the time off and they do, or they'll push me and be like, okay, bye, you're off today. I don't want to hear from you. Like, we got it. It's fine.
Right.
And just like, we do a morning check-in that I took from a woman I met at a conference in Dallas, and she does red light, yellow light, green light. Red light, you do not want to make decisions today, whether, you stayed up because you watched the Lions win and you're just like exhausted, you're hungover or whatever. Yellow light is like, yeah, I'm here. I'm waking up. Like, I'm ready to make some decisions. And green's like, I'm excited. I'm pumped. Like, let's go.
Yeah.
So we've been doing that the last few months, every morning meeting. And it's like, oh, I didn't realize like something was upsetting you that you're red. Like, let's talk about that more.
Right.
So,
How can we support you? I love that. I've been implementing a morning meeting too. And I don't know if I've probably talked about it before, but I really, really love it. So we call it our magical morning meetings. Yes. I took the morning meeting from Richie, who's the manager in Detroit. They do like a daily check-in, and we weren't doing that because I was like, why do we need a daily check-in where it's just 2 of us or 3 of us, right. Part-time. So I was like, why? But I was like, we do need it. So literally every morning we do a magical morning meeting. We do a check-in, like mental, emotional, like, how do you feel at work? How do you feel at home? We do a scale 1 to 5. Like, how are you feeling mentally on a scale 1 to 5? And then we talk about it. Like if they're like under a 4 or under, like, what can we do to get you like a percentage higher? Like, what do you need? And we'll just talk about it. And we spend half an hour, 45 minutes, sometimes an hour, just talking about our mental health and our wellness and where we are in the world right now. because that makes all the difference. Like the rest of the day, I can support you in all the spaces where you just told me you have holes and vice versa. And the day goes so much smoother. Like it's so simple, but it's not easy for some
Right.
people to carve out an hour of their time to like pour into their team and be like, how are you feeling emotionally? How are you feeling about your workload? Where do you need help? Let's break it down. Like if you really need help with this, let's do it together. Whatever the case may be. But I agree. Like now that I'm in a position where I'm leading people, whereas before I was like I had nothing but bosses and nobody under me. I'm like, you have to like do you have to like work hard to be like malicious and micromanage and like
Yes.
really check in on me like every time my teams goes green or red and like literally every time I have to take a shit, you're like, where are you? And I'm like, taking a dump on the clock. That's what
Right.
I'm doing. You know, it's like literally every single time it goes red, you're checking in on me. Like, are you not working? Are you not?
Right. And it's so crazy because I've had, who was it? I don't remember who it was, but it was someone that was like, wow, you really will just let your employees do that? And I'm like, well, yes, if I want to micromanage, I can see where they're clicking in our CRM. I could see if their Slack is green, but I don't
Right.
care. I'm trying to generate us revenue. They are too, because they know if we aren't making money, they ain't getting raises. So
Exactly.
it's mutually beneficial. And when as a small business, and I call it corporate PTSD, that, you have PTSD from a bad boss, bad partner, bad whoever.
Right.
And I sat Allison and Destiny down, who both Destiny's been with me 4 years. Allison will be 4 years and next month, actually a month from today, funny enough. And I was like, listen, I love both of you. I'd rather you figure it out and then come to me. Like, I don't need to sign off on things. Destiny is the yin to my yang. Like, she does everything I hate and I do everything she hates, and vice versa. But it works out so well because then if there's a problem, she just like updates us on the morning meetings, like, hey, this is the problem. I solved it. Great. I'm like, sweet, checkbox, done. But
Yeah.
I will never understand the concept of micromanaging either. I mean, if someone's, if an employee's struggling, their work's struggling, fine, but check in. It's not,
Right.
what are you doing? Why'd you do it this way? Like, I will never fathom how that worked in corporate. And back to what you were talking about of like your morning check-ins, like mental, personal work.
Yeah.
I noticed this too, because listen, and it's not rainbows and sunshine, like at all. I mean, we do disagree. We do very much like, push each other sometimes, but it was like one of my employees was like, work was like, it wasn't her normal work she was doing. Like, it was like there were a few errors, which is fine. Like, she never makes errors. I'm not even going to call them out. Like, it's
Yeah.
fine. You're all human. So then she kept saying she was red, and then she ends up texting me and she's like, look, this is what's going on personally. I just wanted to tell you. I'm like, I knew something was up because it's not like you to make some of these errors, but I'm not going to call it out, make her feel worse, because then I'm going to push her further away. And that's not that. It actually brought us closer there.
Right.
Or one of my favorite things that happened, Destiny and I got into a disagreement. I don't even remember what it was over. Like, this is probably like a year ago. She was telling her husband about it. And he's like, okay, but how cool is it that you can disagree and you still like, you get to have your opinion heard and you get to say what you want and still disagree. And I'm like, thanks, Max. That was very, like, I never thought of it that way, but it's true. So
Right.
even though we have disagreements and we push each other on
Mhm.
opinions, it still will make me better company. I mean, I have severe ADHD, as I'm sure y'all are gathering from the way I talk, and I'm extremely extroverted, but it's different looking from their perspectives of where they are on the
Mhm.
spectrum of extroversion, of where they are, they're not all mini me's. Like, have all very different
You guys
personalities.
are all very different, which I think is really, really good.
You
It's
need
good
it,
for
right?
you. It's good for the team. It gives all the perspectives. And I think like with any relationship, whether it's a working relationship, whether it's a creative relationship, an intimate relationship, a family dynamic, like you're allowed to set boundaries and
Yes.
disagree and still like each other. Like
Yes.
allowed, you know? And I was literally talking to my sister Rachel about this yesterday. I'm like, you get to tell your boss, coworker, the person that you work with that you don't agree with things. And if they take that as a personal attack, it's a different conversation. Like if you don't agree with something and the way they're doing it at the workplace and you tell them, and you guys have a discussion about it, and you can say it with respect and you can
Absolutely.
say it kindly, and they take it as a personal attack, like that is not your responsibility. It's not. And we
No.
can still be friends and disagree. We can still be coworkers and colleagues and have a relationship, a partnership, a marriage, or whatever, and be like, I don't feel the same way as you do about this thing. I think Breezy's been challenging me lately. He's like, so why can't I challenge you? Like he'll just ask, he's like, you're just gonna go unchallenged? It's about the stupidest shit. Like I'll just
Always
say
is.
something like, I'll be like, I really want to get these apples and I don't want the other ones or something like that. And he's like, why not? And I'm like, because I don't want them and they're the wrong ones. And he's like, well, why not? And I'm like, why are you asking me this question? He's like,
Ask
you
me one more time and I'm gonna show you why not. No.
you don't want to be challenged? Why don't you want to be challenged? And he's like, why does your thing have to be the thing? And I'm like, because it does. And he was like, so let's talk about you being challenged. And I'm like, why are you trying to make me grow?
Let's talk about you doing more art, Breezy. Let's talk about that.
He's
Put me in, coach. I got you.
He's been doing so much art. You need to come to the house. Like I was excited for you to come over. Like you need to come over and see this like whirlwind of a basement. I think he's almost ready to do an art show. I think he's got like 50, 60 pieces down there where it's like, he's just been going ham. And I love to see it because I'm like, now he's inviting friends over to see it and they're working on it together. And I'm just like
oh my gosh. Well, side note, but we should talk about it because when it's not a snowstorm and there's 20 inches of snow on the ground, but yes, we will have to do that. But yeah, we should do an event. It'd be fun. Do it with the community. Mm-hmm.
Yes. Oh yes. That would be so amazing. Okay, let's talk about the community a little bit.
Oh yeah, I do that too. I forgot. So
you do other things.
Well, and I think it's funny because I won this Ladies Who Launch like grant, $5,000, which was super cool. And part of it was getting coaching, free coaching, 2 hours of coaching by I think I forget what her title is, but she's a business coach. She's awesome, like really liked her. She's like, okay, well, tell me about you. So then I just went and like word vomited everything I do. And the look on her face, she's like, oh, sister friend, you need to like chill that back because that's overwhelming. So I think now that's like ingrained in my head of like, don't spill it all because then you're going to overwhelm people. And she was right. Like she was totally accurate. You know me, so it's different. But, you know, for someone brand new,
that, like you said, you have extreme ADHD. You need to be working on multiple projects at once.
I have to. It was.
I don't believe in the one thing. Like I'm not capable of doing one thing at a time. Like even if my normal workflow, like I need to be bouncing around our projects. I'm like email, project, another project, email, like, and people are constantly telling me like, you need to reel it in. You need to focus on one thing. And I'm just like, my brain does not work that way. And I saw something the other day that really like resonated with me and made me feel a little bit better. And they were talking about how like multitasking in slow motion is like really, really good where you're like, okay, I'm working on 7 projects at once and I'm moving the needle on all of them a little bit each day, but it's keeping me excited because I'm bouncing around. And when you turn around, you've started a community, you've launched a podcast, you're over 100 episodes, you've got 5 years in business, you got 3 employees. Like, imagine if you were only doing one thing. I just think you would have, I don't know, gotten bored, you know?
I would get bored. And that's one of the things with ADHD, and it all makes sense. And I want to eventually like write a book one day. And I like started that last night because I've been like feeling super inspired to write. But I tell my friends from growing up and they're like, you stress me out, girlfriend. I'm like, why? It's so easy. And Lauren Boyd, I just had on my podcast. She makes me look tame, but she's this badass lawyer. She partnered with her friend to do a children's clothing boutique. I mean, she has her own podcast that they do it live and like live questions about business and things. Like she has like 5 or 6 ventures. She's like, but I can't sit still. I forget how old her kiddo is, but 3-month-old, 4-month-old. And she's just like, I'm just doing it. And she just like, so she was really awesome. And I'm excited because that episode was released yesterday to listen to it. But it's just like the right people will understand you. And it's important to have different groups of people. So you understand it of doing multiple things. I understand it. Other friends I stress out, or like my own employees, they're like, focus, Angela, focus. And Destiny cracks me up because she'll be like, did you take your Adderall today? And I'm like, no, I didn't. So
It's none of your business, okay? But I think it's great. I mean, like, it's like if it's making you excited, it's fueling your passion. There's a reason why you're going to learn some kind of skill, trick of the trade, whatever the case may be, meet someone like in that process of doing all these little bouncy things that all help one another. Like it's all valuable to each other. Like the community helps your podcast and your business helps your podcast and the community. Like it all connects. And it like if you look at you and you see all the stuff that you do, you can understand the umbrella. At the end of the day, the umbrella comes down to helping people.
Yes.
Like everything falls under that, helping people get connected with the right people to put them in the place that they want to be. Everything that you do does that. And so it all connects, it all makes sense. None of it seems random. None of it seems like it doesn't make sense. Like you writing a book makes a lot of fucking sense. And it takes time to write a book. And if I could give you unsolicited advice.
Always.
Okay, so I've got 250 pages of my book done, which I'm going to launch a series this year, maybe in the next year, depending on how the next several months go.
Right.
That's kind of like quantify the data that I wrote in my book. So I'm not ready to launch the book yet, but I got 250 pages. And I did that by doing 15 minutes a day. Mm-hmm. So 15 minutes a day. I'm using this app called Scrivener. I don't know if you've heard of it. I don't know what you're
have to send that to me.
I'll send it to you. It's like $50 for the year. Have you used Notion before?
Yes, I love Notion. Okay, I think I yelled at you about Notion like a year ago, and now
I'm using Notion now. Okay, so for those of you that don't know, like Notion is just like an organizing platform. You can put all of your ideas in there, especially if you're like kind of multi-project, multi-passionate person like us. Like Notion will help you kind of just keep track. And it's like if all the word programming processors were like in one platform. That's like the best way.
I think it's a project management software is what it's considered, but it's so fun. You can I love the emojis you can add on every page. It's my personal favorite, but it's like the brainchild of the Resume Rescue and like my stuff personal. That's where I started to write the book in was Notion actually.
Okay, so Notion might be a good place to keep it for now, but long term, so Scrivener is a lot like Notion, but it's just for long form writing. So it keeps track of your type. You can add goals for the day. So you could say, I want to write 150 characters for the day or 150 words for the day, or every single day I want to do XYZ. You can make buckets. So let's say you want to, so I was working with Lana Goodrich, shout out to LRG Creative, who was helping me, like she helped me get this bulk idea out on paper. So basically we started with like, what are the topics? Also, she was like, just write your face off. Just write your face off.
That's what my friend told me too. Just write it. We'll figure it out.
Just write your face off. You know, like I would say set a timer. Like, I don't know if you're like a freeform writer or something like that, but there's going to be days where you're like, I don't want to fucking write, but you need to write. Set a timer for 5 minutes. 5 minutes. That's it. Just start writing. And if at the end of 5 minutes, you're like, that's it. That's all I got. At least you sat down at the table for 5 minutes and you worked on it, even if you're just editing a little bit. But after I did that, then we like made a bunch of like large overarching buckets where like, what are the main themes we're seeing here? And for me, it was like building your personal style, personal hygiene. How do you cultivate your own like confidence? Where does that come from? And so we made like 7 big budget buckets, and then we just started moving stories to the buckets. Like, oh, this story fits here. This story fits here. It's not all going to stay there, but I like the way Scrivener organizes because it's very like, it's a lot like Notion, and it's very easy, like drag and drop. You could drag and drop your 1,000-word essay from here to there, make a bunch of notes, tag it in a bunch of different places. You could put pictures, you could put video, you can like do a whole bunch of stuff. So if you want to do like voice memos to yourself, you can upload them into the chapter.
Amazing. I have lots of them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So play with it. See if you like Notion, you're going to like Scrivener. It's like amazing. Really good. And then she also suggested that I read this one book, and it was called Bird by Bird. And you will like her humor. Her humor was a little too dark and self-deprecating for me. I was like, why is she being so negative? And then like the way Lana is a lot like you in that way. I'm like, if I joke about stuff like that, if that's how I joke with myself, it fucks with my mental state. So for me, it was a little challenging, but it was a very good book, very funny. I think you would find it even more funny than I did. But also it's like, how do you like get a book out? Like basically word for word, like what are the different steps. So I know you're a big reader, so Bird by Bird is a really good one. Is a really good one. Yes, you should definitely have a book. You should have several books.
Well, and this is a great thing to think about too, because if like confidence. So we're going back to this concept of confidence and everything there, where I had thought about it. And I've always been like, before I was open about sharing my feelings, and me personally, I've always been a writer. Like from as long as I can remember, I've always been a writer. I found journals dating back to like first grade. Like I have always been a writer. So the fact that I'm in a writing capacity job is not surprising, but still surprising. I was going to be a journalist in one life, a criminal investigator in another one. So I'm very observant, but this is where we ended up. So
yeah.
I have always been, and why I would fall off of journaling was like, oh, well, I have to date it. And I'd see the date and I would be like, oh my gosh, I haven't done this in 2 weeks. This is embarrassing. I can't do it. And then it was, oh, I need to write this down, but that sounds dumb. Or I found my journals from like middle school, wildly depressing. Like, I was like, oh, I don't want to look back in this. And I was embarrassed and I threw them all away. Like when I moved out of the house to go to college. So wish I had them now, but it's fine.
Yeah.
So it's thinking about like this shit's scary. I mean, I wrote the intro yesterday and I was like, this is like, I've done very scary things. I've ended a relationship with someone I thought was the one. I told Dan that I loved him after 2 weeks. I mean, told my boss to go fuck himself. Like I've done scary things.
Right.
This is scary too, but it's like, I just keep feeling like called to write a book. Like I've said it's on my bucket list to do, but like the last like month, it's been like, you should write. So I'm doing it, but it doesn't mean I'm not cringing at it. I mean, it was very big for me. Like I read it to Dan yesterday and I was like, ugh. But I didn't even answer your question about the community, but going back
now.
Yes. So and even if you have these ideas, I mean, I recommend to everyone, I'm a journal fiend. Like people laugh at me and they're like, stop with the sticky notes. Cause I was a sticky note queen and I just wrote the book down on a sticky note, but then take like, what's going to work for you? You should have a career journal that like follows you like a child. Like that's your baby you take with you on vacation, leave it in your cart, leave it on wherever you are. And you have an idea, put it in there. I Slack myself ideas. I go through them every week and I'm like, this was stupid. This we could do later. So when we have these ideas and we have these great opportunities where this business I started was not just like, oh, I just had this idea and it's like going to work. Like this was thinking about it, thinking 5 steps forward, 10 steps forward. I mean, coming up with the idea of the name for the resume rescue, I knew I didn't want to use my name. I don't have a cute name. I don't have one that like rolls off the tongue like Amanda Sweet, like sounds great. Awesome. Angela Buccellato, like it is a freaking mouthful. Love my Italian heritage. It ain't pretty sometimes. So I knew I didn't want to use my name, but I wanted to come up with it. So again, on an ADHD Zoomy spiel, I'm talking to my mom and I was like, mom, I think I could make this a business. And this is, I think like 2016, 2017. I'm like, like I save people and I'm doing this. And she is just like, go off, sis. Like, I'm just here. Do you need me for this conversation?
Right.
And
yes, I do.
Yes. And I just like remembered, I'm like, I'm rescuing people. I'm saving them. I'm saving their careers. I'm like rescuing them. I'm like, resume rescue, the resume rescue. That's what it's going to be. So she's like, okay, glad I could help you. Like, what? And I love my mother. She's the best. But
she didn't know the gravity of the conversation at the time.
Yes, I didn't. And I'll remember it because we were like getting in her car, standing in the driveway. And she's like, you are something else. Like, did you...
Yes, I did.
Much coffee today?
Yes.
We now learn I have ADHD. I didn't know it at the time. I was just diagnosed in the last 2 years, but it makes sense. So back to the part on journaling, like you should journal, you should write down ideas. It doesn't have to be well scripted, but the idea I had for the summit that we put on in October, Taylor and I were out to lunch and she's another one. I'm like, I like you. We should be friends. We're in class and out to lunch and and this was like January of last year. She's like, I really would love eventually to do like a big event. And I'm like a summit? She's like, yeah. And I'm like, stop it. So I went to Notion and I had made this document in 2021. I had it all lined out of what I envisioned it to be. I shared it with her. We literally wrote it on a bar napkin and continued it because I didn't have my laptop at the time. And she's like, holy shit, this is awesome. Let's do it. So that it wasn't the right time in 2021. I didn't have the bandwidth, but I'm so thankful I had that like scripted for us to have a conversation. And I'm going to toot my own horn. It was a freaking badass event. You were an incredible speaker. Like it was just like the dream of an event. And had I not written that down, I like had nothing to go off of. I mean, and there's plenty of ideas that I say that I'm like, that was kind of dumb, or I don't really like that. But it's fine. On to the next one.
It's all part of the brainstorming process. You got to get through the stupid shit to get to the good stuff. Like you got to like, I say this all the time. Like you got to just like fart it out. I say to my sister, and now she says it all the time. She was like, can I call and like fart some emotions at you? And I'm like, yes, it's stupid. But it's like, you're like, you're holding it in and it's like, you just got to let it out. And it might just be like, but.
Okay. And that's a good point, not to interrupt you, but that's where I feel like maybe this, like we bottle up emotions so much that I never do. I'm like, I'm going to tell you everything. I'm probably going to get a little too personal with you. I'm going to share my life story on LinkedIn, but that's where I don't feel like I'm so stuck in my own ways or have that feeling like when you're going down on a roller coaster, like the butterflies in your stomach of like, I wish I would have said that, or I should have done this, or blah, 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 because I am that person. And you are very much that person too, of like, I'm going to tell you things. I'm going to water it when it wants to step 10 steps forward and say, hey, I really like you. I want you to be on my podcast. And this is what it is. And let me get your number. I'm not hitting on you. I just want your number to be on my podcast. Like I did with that lead singer, that band Nick. And I've met friends off LinkedIn. I've done all these things. Like, I guess I let my intrusive good thoughts win is what we can say. Like let your intrusive thoughts win sometimes in those capacities.
That's so good. I love that. I'm keeping that. I'm gonna hold on to that. Let the good intrusive thoughts win.
Yes.
Because like these intrusive thoughts for you to write this book is such a beautiful intrusive thought. Like if it's there, like you need to write. Like I'm so glad that you are. And I'm gonna tell you right now, your first draft is just for you. Like it doesn't have to be good. It does not have to be good. It just needs to get out. You just need to let it out of yourself. And then you do revisions and then you start working about if it's good or not good or if it makes sense, but I love it. It's the same way that the Passion of Purpose conference came to life and the community came to life. Like all of that just started with like a rambling of ideas and then you reorganized them and reworked it again. And then it started making sense. And you found your person like Tay from our last episode where it's like, okay, you're like bing, 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 bouncing off the walls. I have all these ideas. And then there's this person that's like, all right, and here's how we're going to do it. And it's going to be like,
yes. There's, what is it? It's from the book Rocket Fuel. It's the concept of the visionary and creative. I am the visionary.
That right now. Yes.
Yeah. Yes. So it's funny because I'm not great at doing the logistics of like emailing the person, making the introduction or scheduling things or making calls. I will get the people there. Like you build it, I will get them to come like 1000%. Where we were talking about this the other day. We're like, we actually got like a good amount of sponsors for it being our first one and it getting thrown together with it. So us kind of thinking through, and I've had a few like not so great experiences with other networking groups, and I could have stepped aside to say like, woe is me. This was just like, this is really disappointing. I wish this would have worked out. Or I could say, okay, I know what I liked and what I didn't like. And now I'm going to make my own community or our own community, I should say, of what do we want to see? And again, having someone that does think a lot differently than me. And I give Taylor anxiety with my stack of notebooks I carry around. And she's like, I love that works for you. That gives me anxiety. But again, that yin to yang concept, why Destiny and I get along so well. And it's like, what is the saying? It's like, if you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room. And I 1000% believe that. You shouldn't come at it as an insecure thing. It should come at it as like, cool, I didn't know that. Like,
right.
Tell me more. It's not like, oh my gosh, they're so much smarter than me. They have more degrees than me. They have more this than me. It's like, no, just like
you're fulfilling the gaps that I have. Like like Breezy says it all the time. He's like, you fill all the gaps. Like, and I feel the same way about him. Like, there's so much stuff that like detail things, like any paperwork things, insurance stuff, like all the stuff that we need to do to be adults. Like, I'm not great with. Like, I'm long-term vision. I see 5 steps in the future. I can understand how we can get there. I can like have all these ideas, but sometimes it's like, okay, but we have to set up our 401k. We have to set up all of this stuff. And he's like, we just need to sit down and adult for 20 minutes. And I'm like, it's so low.
No.
Why? Please don't make
something you said earlier of like opposites attract. So
Mhm.
I do think it's not so much opposites attract. I think you have to have the same morals as someone or the same ideas. Like, I don't like everyone. You don't like everyone. Not everyone's going to like you, and that's okay. But what you said of like people will match your energy and will like, vibe with you on that. I mean, Taylor and I met 2 years ago at a networking event. I talked her ear off. I don't know why, like, especially bad. Like,
good. Yeah.
and I was like, I love her. I want to be her friend. And we didn't reconnect till like 6, 7 months later. And I was like, holy shit, this was like a weird thing that we got partnered to do something.
Yeah.
And it ended up working out. And I talked to her, if not every day, pretty dang close to it. So it's, matching those people with the same energy and that like help you with what you're good at, what you're not. I could again say, woe is me. Like, I'm not good at logistics. I'm not good at that. But me approaching her and saying, look, Taylor, I will get the people there. I will do sponsorships. I will like go pick stuff up. Like, I will promote the hell out of it. I'm really good at social media. So, and she had asked me because we made this workbook and she's like, I'm not trying to step on toes, but can I do the workbook? And I'm like, Taylor, I'd rather stick 9-inch nails through my eyeballs and do that workbook. And she's like, oh, good. So us having that realistic conversation of what I'm good at, what she's good at, what she's not is like what made it successful. And I don't really think we still to this day, like never really had a fight. It's just like, I'm pushing back and disagreeing with you. And this is why. And
Exactly.
it's great. She's like, okay, you're right. Or vice versa on that too. So it's like finding the people that compliment you and just like are not going to blow up at you for stupid things and just like have an adult conversation. You should disagree. If you're not disagreeing with someone, that's
like, are we actually having like intentional or valuable conversations? Like, I think it's beautiful. All like everything that you do makes so much sense to me, Angela. Like, I don't know if it's probably because I'm on like an ADD spectrum, but also like it all falls under this like umbrella that makes sense to me. And that's kind of like, I get that question a lot. Like, what do you actually do? And I'm still trying to figure it out. Like, I feel like
we all are. It's okay.
I feel like I question because people are like, we're supposed to do one thing. And I'm like, well, I do 80 million different things, but all of them come down to like looking fly, feeling good, and helping people make friends and like helping save. So I help people get fly, make friends, and save the world through events. Like, I really do feel like all of the things that I do fall into like one or several of those buckets. Like, it's either style focused, it's either like give back focused, it's always people focused. Like, but at the end of the day, I'm like, I just get bored. I get bored. I want to try something new. I have an idea and I'm like, let's try it. And I feel like life is meant to be lived like that, where you're just like trying a bunch of random shit. And then eventually you'll get to your like golden nugget, whatever that is, maybe, but maybe you'll just have like a 20 pack of golden nuggets because you tried a whole bunch of random stuff and you're like, this is all for me. All of this could be for you. Like, why do you have to pick one thing? Why do you have to niche down so much? Why do you have to like only do one thing for the rest of your life? Like, that's like old school mentality. And I feel like we're just too multidimensional of humans to just do one thing. Like 2 weekends ago, we picked up tufting. So carpet rug making. And I was like, this is amazing. It's now part of my personality. Like, this is who we are. But also like 2 years ago, I started sewing and I'm like, but it all has to do with each other. It's like design, it's art. It makes me feel good. I tried something new. I learned something different and learned a new skill. Like, it's all going to be valuable for me at the end of the day in some capacity.
Exactly.
I love it. Okay, well, we're at an hour. So that always happens so fast. And we talked for like an hour before we even started. So like, I love you.
Thank you for having me. This was a blast.
Of course. Okay, if you had one piece of advice to give to our beautiful listeners, what would you say?
Get out of your own way, I would say. It's just like life is scary. You don't need to make it scarier than what it is. Give the energy to the people that deserve it and those that are no longer serving you. I mean, I'm not saying to end friendships, but just give your energy where it's rightfully distributed. You do scary things all the time. Like, just do it. You have a business idea, start outlining it. You want to run a marathon, start planning for it. I mean, life's too short. And it's just like, find your inspiration where you can. I mean, for me, I love concerts. I love live music. I'm listening to Dave Grohl's bio right now. And I feel like, and I think that's why I feel inspired to like write this book, especially, but find it on unlikely places and stop being so freaking hard on yourself.
Love that. I love it so much. And I love you. I'm so grateful for you. Where can people find you?
Okay. I'm Angela Buccellato on LinkedIn. We're the Resume Rescue on I'm Ask Angela on TikTok. Our website's just theresumerescue.com, Instagram, Facebook, all the things. So you can find me in a lot of different places.
And how do we find the community?
The community we're on, it's called Passion and Purpose Community, and we are on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram there. So we're going to do some badass events in the upcoming weeks we're planning for the whole year, do a summit again in October, which will be super fun. So we're a brand new community. I don't like to say networking group. We like to say community of people that you're not going to go around the room and say what you do for a living 5,000 times. You're going to build connections, and we're doing a speed networking event February 13th, which will be fun. The Eventbrite will be up soon, so I'll send that to you. But yeah, reach out. I'm always looking for new connections and to make new friends. So,
and then where could people listen to your podcast?
All your favorite platforms. So it's called That's Business, and a little ode to Frank Sinatra's That's Life is how I came up with the name. But you can listen to it on all your favorite platforms: Spotify, Apple, Amazon, Stitchler, all the things. So it's on, I'm pretty sure, every single Google, all the platforms out there.
Got over 100 episodes, right?
Yes, we just released 106 yesterday, I think it was. So yeah, we're growing.
I love it. I'm so proud of you. I'm so grateful that you're here. Thank you so much for joining us on the Let's Glow show. My name is Amanda Sweet. I'm the Creative Fairy Godmother, and we'll see you next week with another dope creative person. See you later.